All right, what's up everybody? How we doing? This space is echoey. I should have thought of that before I started this. But alas, here we are. We're in an echoey space. Take it. Welcome everybody. I hope you guys are making the most of the quarantine. I had a lovely weekend being locked in with my wife. And yeah, so it is going to be what you make of it, my friends. So if you have somebody that you're quarantined with, enjoy them, make the most of the time. If you're quarantined by yourself, get a good show to binge, get a book to read, make the most of the time. So yes, so dive in. If you guys have some questions, I'm here to answer that. This is part of my daily check-in. I've been going live every day since, I don't know, about a week ago now, just to be useful during this lock-in time. So if you guys have any questions, I'm going to be taking live questions. So if you have one, just hit that request to join button, and I will be having people join me. And here's the key. If you have a question, make sure that your question is succinct so that we don't lose a lot of time. Get your question ready so that if I select you, you're good to go. I've had people select only to then decline. So yeah, make sure that you are ready to rock and roll. All right, so again, if you have a question, just hit that request button and I'll be bringing people in. But make sure that you have your question ready to rock. So yeah, all right. Without further ado, let us grab our first question. This is from Hans Kevin, assuming that he accepts. So we shall see, we shall see. Let's see how we do here. Uh-oh, Kevin, did you decline? What happened here? I was trying to connect and then it stopped. Not sure what happened. All right, so if you guys have a question, hit that request. And I'm going to be picking somebody at random here. So anybody that has a question, I'm going to join you into the feed. So just hit me up here. Don't know why this is always so finicky. All right. Let's try this. We are waiting. Let's see if we get a connection. We're connecting. There it is.
Hey, Tom.
How goes it?
Great, thank you. I'm Luis from Mexico.
Luis, it's a pleasure, man. What part of Mexico are you in?
I'm in Mexico City.
Oh, wow, okay. So talk about a densely populated area.
Yes, of course, definitely. Yes, working from home, reading a good book right now.
What book was that?
Man in Search of Meaning of Viktor Frankl.
Dude, that book is life-changing.
Yes, I know. It's one of my favorites. That's why I'm taking back on that book right now. I think it's one of the best books to read right now, right?
Yeah, no joke. That's a good point. I just wrote a post today about meaning, and that basically you're going to assign meaning to what's happening, and depending on what you assign is going to make a world of difference. For people that haven't read the book, Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, I will put that as one of the most important books you can read. It's on my all-time reading list. I think it's in the top 10 for sure at a time like this. I'll put it in, the top 1 or 2. So you have a question for us, Luis?
Yes, I have one. I have a business right now, and I would like to know what's your take on how do you manage between taking care of the company as of your capital and at the same time providing the most amount of resources to your people, because right now they're like in this situation that we are all in, and you want to help as a business owner, but at the same time you want to have enough resources after this ends that we don't know when it's gonna end.
Right.
And how do you make that calculation, or how do you manage to do that?
So this is going to be on a case-by-case basis for sure. So I'll give some guidance that I think will help at a high level.
Yes, like a blueprint.
Yeah, exactly. So one, at a time like this, you're going to make your reputation. And I think that taking care of your employees is the best way to take care of your customers. So from a long-term perspective, taking care of your employees is the #1 business protective thing that you could do. So, but there are realities to be faced. Like you said, you need to be able to come out the other side of this, to have the resources to stay in business. So this is going to be a very difficult time. And I remember going through the 2008 recession where I had to let go of people that I thought were extraordinary. They were great employees. And it was a question of having to protect the organism over any one individual person. So first and foremost, I would cut your salary before I would cut anybody else's. That's going to speak so loudly to your employees that before you ask anyone to take a dime off, that you're going to be most aggressive with your own cuts. Obviously, keeping people as close to their normal salary as possible would be amazing. I think most people would probably prefer you to shave everybody rather than just start letting people go, at least in the short term. So I would start there. I would ask people, one, I would take as close to zero as I could and still live. So Lisa and I are obviously in a very fortunate position. So we haven't ever taken a salary at Impact Theory, but if we were taking a salary, we would cut that first. Then the next thing I would do is get everybody to take an across the board cut, only if I had to, which by the way, I would push off as long as I could, but being very thoughtful to not waiting so long that you put the entire company in jeopardy. Then I would start, if this drags on, and this goes on a lot longer than anybody's thinking, or the impact to your business is more dire than you expected, then I would begin figuring out, what are the roles that we can get away with without altogether. And then I would start with just waiting until it became absolutely necessary. I would start eliminating those positions and really remembering that you have two levers to pull. One is cutting your expenses and the other is generating new revenue. And so I would be really aggressively looking for ways to generate new revenue. So, but assuming that you're not able to pull that off, then that's how I would think about reducing. And I would do whatever needed to be done to make sure that I protected the organism as a whole, assuming that what you're selling has some sort of good to the community and obvious good to your employees.
Sure.
You want to make sure that this comes out the other side. So, but that's how I would think of it. Many people are going to find themselves in a very difficult position where they are going to have to let people go that they don't want to let people go. I think if you're very thoughtful, very communicative, letting people know what's going on, not surprising people, if at all possible, letting people go with enough runway that you're able to give them a severance, that kind of thing will go a long way. And I always try to remember that when you let somebody go, whenever you let them go, in times of plenty or in a difficult time like this, the way you let them go is as much about the people who remain as it is the person who's going. So the people who remain are going to look at how you treated them, and if you treated them with respect, if you tried to make this as graceful and sort of safe exit as humanly possible, then that's going to mean a lot to them in terms of them being willing to stick by you if things get hard when you ask them to take a salary cut or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, well, that's great, man.
Awesome.
And
well,
I appreciate you so much. Thank you for everything and for everything you do for everyone that are looking right now. I relate to you a lot because I have a business based in supplements. So I see myself like right now in this position of sharing some of the benefits that has been coming to my life and all that blessings. And we do a lot of personal development with our guys and with our group. And I think that if you build the people will build a business. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of business owners can take that responsibility to make the most out of this situation. And you are like this lighthouse for all of us. So thank you so much, and hope you have a great day and great week and great life, man.
Thank you, man. You too. Thanks so much for the question, and good luck with everything.
See you soon.
All right, brother. Take care. All right, so yeah, if anybody out there, I'm taking questions. So if you have a question, go ahead and hit the request to join me live. Have your question ready. That was a great example, Louise. Thank you so much. That was wonderful, man. Right to the point. Really, really appreciate it. Way to set the example All right, so if anybody has a question, hit that request button. I've got, looks like a few people requesting now. So let's see who we get here. This button, there we go. Oh, I am the learner. Well, you can't not pick somebody with that username. Let's see how we do. Waiting for I am the learner to join. Connecting. There we are. What's up, my man?
Hi.
What's your name?
Oh, I'm Rohit. I'm from India. Thanks for
Well,
accepting my request. I've actually named this account on something you say often.
that's amazing, man. I love that. Well, it certainly stood out to me. So thank you for joining me. What's your question?
So basically, I created this account just to sort of share tips on cultivating a growth mindset, like something you do on impact theory. But I feel I can't get my stories across. I mean, how do you get people to take action, right? That's your question as well on impact theory when you talk to a lot of people. So I kind of want to know, what can I do to sort of have that effect on people?
So this is a question that sits at the center of my soul. I have thought a lot about this. And here's the reality. You cannot get people to take action. That ultimately is going to be a decision that they make. So the things that I try to focus on are, one, set a good example. So actually live the things that you're teaching. Don't ever teach something that you're not embodying, because chances are the disconnect between you not embodying it and the advice that you're giving is something that a lot of people are going to struggle with. So better for you to turn inward and figure out why you're not able to live into that. And once you get that answer, teach that, right? Like explain that to people. Like, yo, here's a thing that's stopping me. Like, I know this is good advice and here's why I'm not doing it. And I think that people, in being able to recognize the way that their own mind works, then they're going to be able to get hold of it. And that's the second thing that I'm trying to do, is I'm very much trying to get people to understand the way their mind works. And in understanding the way that your mind works, you're far more likely to actually be able to get a grip on it. So I think a large reason that so many people disconnect between what they know they should be doing and what they actually do is they don't understand the way the human mind works. And for me, that for sure was where I lost almost a decade of my life, was just not understanding the way, what I call the physics of being a human. So the physics of being a human, of having a biological experience, of having a human brain, of the biases that we all develop over time. Like, once you begin to break those down and understand how they work, then you can begin to get around them, to get past them, because you recognize what's happening in your own mind. You recognize self-defeating behavior. You recognize negative thinking. You recognize that what you focus on is going to determine what you see, right? That's just the way that the brain works. And so even beginning to understand some of the neuroscience and the different areas of the brain, like one of my favorites to explain to people is the deep limbic system. So there's actually an area of your brain that's designed not to tell you what is happening, it's designed to tell you how to feel about what's happening. And once you realize there's a fucking region of your brain that goes, this thing that's happening is good, or this thing that's happening is bad. And we talk a lot about humans being a meaning-making machine. You're going to take whatever circumstance is happening and you're going to say this means something. So my business failed. That means I'm a bad person. That means I'm stupid. That means I'm a poor entrepreneur. That means I'm not meant for this, whatever. Or that means that I didn't know the right things. That means that I need to learn more. That means that I need a mentor. That means that I need to try again, right? Same fucking input, very different outcomes based on the meaning that you assign to it. And you have a region of the brain, again, it's called the deep limbic system, that's designed to tell you how to feel about what's happening, which is going to color your perception of the meaning of that thing. Now, if you understand that that region of the brain can actually become inflamed, and that when it becomes inflamed, you're more likely to paint something as a negative experience than when it's not inflamed. Then it becomes a question of, okay, what inflames the brain? This is one of the reasons I'm absolutely fucking obsessed with health, as much as I don't want to think about it, as much as I just want to eat cakes and pie and candy and pizza and fried food, French fries. French fries are my fucking crack cocaine. I love those things. But those are the things that inflame the deep limbic system. So you begin to understand, okay, there's this chain of cause and effect, and I understand how to manipulate it. I understand, okay, if I want to be able to see something positive, One, I need to take control of that meaning-making machine. I need to understand the deep limbic system. That information causes you to see things more negatively, and that you can cause the inflammation by the things you eat. You can impact it through exercise. So you begin to go, oh, this is a process. So to get back to your initial question, how do you get people to do things? You're never going to be able to get somebody else to do things. Your only hope are those two things that I talked about. Set a rad fucking example, and then get people to understand how their mind works. Now, all you can do is present the information by learning it yourself. You're not going to be able to force them, much to my dismay. But that really is, that's sort of the 1-2 punch. And then I'll say a third thing, which is, you're probably asking this question largely because you want to impact the people closest to you, who of course would be the most difficult people to impact. But those people, I would say, focus on loving them. Just focus on being with them. It's what I call just sit. Just sit and be with them. And don't judge. Don't even necessarily spend, it's going to be hard, I know from experience, don't spend a lot of time wanting them to be different. Just be with them. Love them. Be compassionate. That will give you a thriving relationship. And as humans so long for connection, prioritizing making sure that your relationships are rad is actually going to give you more of what you want than finding the secret formula, which, don't get me wrong, I am after the secret formula. My business life is all about figuring out how in 30 seconds or less I can say a magic utterance of words that will get somebody to want to make that change and to have the energy to see it through. But it ain't easy.
Just to sort of focus on the third point that you said, I want to do this for people that are closest to me. It's not just that, it's because when I started watching Impact Theory and when I started implementing the things that a lot of people on your show talk about, like Joe Dispenza, and then I think a lot of other people like Mel Robbins, the 5-second rule, things like that. When I sort of started doing all of that, I could notice a drastic change in my life. And that's what I want others to replicate, because I feel like, I don't remember who said this, but we don't focus on our mind, we just focus on our body and craft. And we don't focus on the mind, right? So that is something I really want to, sort of make it mainstream so that a lot of people can take action and can have that effect that I had. And it's one of my goals to sort of be there on the side of Impact Theory with you. So I'm working towards it. I'll probably see you in a few years. Thanks.
I like the sound of that, man. And look, what you're doing is noble. Welcome to the fight. You and I definitely share that. So I'm glad to have an ally in this battle. Well, man, thank you so much for the question. I really, really appreciate it. And
thank you.
Everybody out there, if you have a question that you want to ask, I'm taking people that are live in the feed. So if you have a question, just request to join, have your question ready, make sure it's nice and concise. We've had 2 great questions already. They've been super on point. People were ready. They accepted when I invited them, and they had a nice, succinct question. So let's keep that train rolling. And welcome, by the way, to everybody in the feed. It is always amazing to see you guys and to spend a little bit of time with you. For those that are just joining, this is not at all what I meant to do. This is me doing my daily check-in, which I'm doing now during this very bizarre time that we're in here. But there's opportunities for us all to make the most. Okay, hold on a second. We got Jim Quick in the feed. Let's see if we can get him on here. Let's see, waiting for Mr. Quick. If you guys don't know Jim Quick, this guy is the man. There he is. What's up, dude?
How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing so good, man. It is always good to see you. We are filming with this man tomorrow. I'm very excited about that. He's got a book coming out. Dude, this book is going to change fucking lives, Jim. I'm so amped up about this. I know you've been working on this book forever. There it is. There it is. There it is. There it is. First of all, I have to say, if anybody has heard me talk about Jim, I'm telling you, in real life, I love this kid. As a friend, just what a good dude. So I am beyond effusive with my praise for Jim Quick, because he is a good human being off camera. He's a rad friend. He's just such a good dude. And for real, this book is going to be amazing. I'm so stoked that you wrote it. Tell people really fast what this bad boy is about.
So Limitless is my life's work. It's 3 decades of me field testing how to help people to accelerate their learning. And really, we came up with a framework for unlocking human potential, which I'm really excited to share with you, my buddy, on our next conversation. Yeah.
It is going to be a lot of fun. So we're recording that tomorrow. I actually don't know the day that it's going to go live. Do you know?
Don't know, but it's happening. Yeah. So
not in the not too distant future. So normally we record these interviews sometimes 6 weeks in advance, but with what's going on with COVID-19, everything is a little more rapid fire than that.
Yeah.
So I know it won't be too long.
Yeah. I did have a question for you real
Yes.
quick. So we talk about the Matrix, and we've done like Matrix, binge watching. If you could download and hook up somebody like Neo and install not a skill like Kung Fu, but one thought, just one dominant thought into everybody's minds globally, what would that dominant thought be?
Well, Tim, thank you for asking. So it's what I call the only belief that matters. So the thing that stopped me for a really long time was I believed that I was born a certain way and that I had talent and intelligence and they were fixed. And because of that, I was always trying to shuck and jive to find a way to maximize what I was born with. I didn't think about working hard to get better. Once I realized, oh, wait a second, that we're born as learners, basically, that we can get better at anything. And once I allowed myself to believe that, then I started acting differently and I started putting time and energy into improvement, and that changed my life. I just wrote a post about this like 20 minutes ago about how in uncertain times, the thing that people need to focus on is the fact that if you get better at something, then if you're good enough at a meaningful skill, you will always be able to make a living. You'll always be able to eat. You'll always be able to shelter yourself. But you have to believe that the time and energy that you put into improvement will actually reward you with a better skill set. So if I could get people to believe that one thing, that will control their behavior, because then instead of being outwardly focused about like, oh, this is a shitty situation, they just go, the only response here is to get better at whatever the thing is that they want to get better at. And so it could be get better at taking care of my loved ones. It could be get better at building a business, to be a better project manager, or whatever. But putting that energy into improvement will give you emotional security, which I'll focus on that for now. It will give you an emotional security in a very uncertain time.
I love that. That's amazing. Yeah, for me, it's the same thing. It's along the same lines. If I was to install one idea in people's minds besides, what I teach in the area of learning is that we are 100% responsible for our own lives. That difficult times, they could diminish us. Like right now, difficult times could diminish us. They could define us, or they could develop us. We decide, and we always have choice. So we are always responsible. So I want to thank you for everything that you and Lisa do. Like, you are literally a force of nature. You're a force for good. And look forward to, I want people to be able to answer their questions and your questions. But I love you guys so much.
Thank you, man. And thank you for jumping on here. I'm super excited about tomorrow. I'm super excited for people to read Limitless. It's going to be amazing. When does Limitless hit shelves?
April 28th. People could go to limitlessbook.com, and we have some free bonus, like thank you gifts for pre-ordering. But yeah, but this wasn't about, Limitless is not about being perfect. It's about progressing and advancing beyond what you believe is possible. So we all feel like we're in a box somewhere in our career, in our business, in our health, our wellness, our happiness. And we always know that there's another level, that ultimately you and I and everyone who's watching this right now, we're all on the same journey, this adventure to be able to realize and to reveal our fullest potential. And that's what we're here to do. So thank you so much for all you do, the cape that you wear. And thank everyone for watching this part, and good luck.
Thanks, man. You too. Peace. Talk to you soon. All right, well, that was a fun surprise. So anybody else, if you have a question, go ahead and hit that request to join. Just make sure that you have your question ready, that it's nice and concise, and then I will pick somebody at random. So let's see who we get here. All right, let's go with Gigi. Gigi, what do you have for us? Let's see, we're waiting. We are waiting for that connection. Come on, Meow, here we go.
Oh my God.
There it
I'm
is,
watching you
hello.
for a very long time, and I need to say this. I know I have the question prepared. I lost 30 pounds in the last 4 months, and now I want to have a six pack. And I've been watching you for a year, I think, by Mel Robbins' 5-second rule. And I'm okay. I've been home for the last 10 days, and I'm doing amazing because I did the work on my brain. So everything started from inside out. My question for you is, do you think this will change how people think and not treasure everything outside the money, who I am? Because I feel like everybody's sitting home right now. They're like, I have no idea who I am. I don't like myself. I don't know, whatever. I use the outside world. And now I need to look inside and look at my inadequacies, as you say, stare them in the face and see, okay, I'm here. How can I get there? So for me, I also put myself in difficult situation. I had a growth mindset being born, but we're not blank states. And I don't have a singing voice. But I used to tell my mom, I can sing. If I put in the work, I'm able to sing. I used to read a lot. And she said, no, that's impossible. And then I learned about brain plasticity. I hope to be on your show and Lisa's show one day. To be honest, I want to change the world. But yeah, so do you think that this will change people's behavior? They will say,
here's the reality. So the way that the human mind works, so the physics of being human, is that most people will not change. The vast majority of humanity this will be a blip. They will get back into the day-to-day grind, and they're going to slide back into thinking exactly the way that they were thinking before. If you don't take conscious control of the process to unwind all of your thinking patterns, a new pattern will not take hold by accident. I do think, though, that there will be a certain subset of people for whom this will be a catalyst of massive transformation. Like you said, they're now going to be alone with themselves and the way that they think about themselves. And some people are going to have those moments of epiphany, and they will follow it through, and it will be tremendous. And so I invite everybody, and look, if people are watching me and they're watching this feed, they sort of already buy into the notion that they can change. And so everybody here watching now are a step ahead of where most people are. But if you're here and you're looking for that thing to push you over the edge, I mean, this is a societal shakeup, the likes of which we have never seen before. And just having the time to not have to commute for some people is going to change. I mean, it's going to add an hour or 2 hours back to their life. And if all they do is take that time to meditate, to reflect, to read, to learn, whatever, this could be just from a time spent perspective. It could be a radical shift. And if they take that time to be very thoughtful about what they are going to instill as beliefs, they spend the time focusing on repetition of getting a new set of beliefs, hardwiring a new set of values, it will be extraordinary what comes out the other side. And I do find that a lot of people need some sort of massive emotional catalyst in order to be propelled forward to make that change. So the good news is this is a very scary, uncertain time for a lot of people. And some people, and this is definitely what happened to me, 20 years ago now, I hit a place of such emotional terror. I didn't want my life to end in a way that was sliding me towards depression. And so out of desperation, I started reading about the brain. And that ended up being a total game changer for me. So hopefully people will do the same, that this will be a scary enough time that it's going to force them to say, okay, there has to be a new paradigm. There has to be a new way for me to think of things. And if they do that, then we could see some radical changes. But I do think the average person, probably not so much. I think they will slide back to normalcy.
Yeah, well, yeah, I had this conversation with friends, and they said it will be two types of people, as you said. But also, people are saying this is going to be for 4 months, right? Like, let's just take the worst case scenario. And it's proving us as humans how fragile we are, how fragile the systems are, and anything like, I can't understand how can we wake up from this and go on how we used to do things, because that is what it got us here. So
yeah,
that's
I mean,
what
a lot of this is just the physics of what it means to be a human. It's the physics of what it means to be in a society. Look, this is not the first time that we've had this kind of shakeup. It's just the first time we've had it in a modern context. So society is resilient. Like even if this ends up being a massive global recession, we will bounce back. Now it may not be in a timeline that people find comforting, but we will bounce back. People want safety, they want security. I mean, Maslow's hierarchy of needs is Maslow's hierarchy of needs for a reason. Like that's just how the human animal is wired. So, you know, it gets trickier when you think about it in the course of any one human. Like a year of emotional suffering is a lot. 10 years is just unbearable. But when you take it at, 25, 50 years, it will just be a blip. The next generation won't even know this happened. So, I mean, I don't expect that to comfort anybody. I just want people to really look at the fact that all of this stuff moves in cycles. And the one thing that we can all control is our own perspective. So we cannot control how long this lasts. We cannot control how other people respond to it, but we absolutely can control the meaning that we take out of it. And if the meaning that you take out of it is that, yo, I need to be more robust, I need to be more prepared to handle the next thing, then put your time into that. Put your time into getting more resilient. Put your time into getting better and more powerful. But I would encourage people not to have a knee-jerk reaction. So Ray Dalio talks about how the generation that lived through the Great Depression, they missed the boom that came after it. So the baby boomers took advantage of the huge growth that happened because of the war and coming out of the Great Depression. But people that were shaped by the Great Depression had such a fear-based mentality. They were, socking their money away under the bed because they were afraid that history was going to repeat itself. And so what's going to end up happening is people that look for opportunity will take advantage of what comes after this. Like, let me tell you, all the private groups that I'm a part of behind the scenes that are largely made up of other entrepreneurs, everybody's talking about the same thing. What's the opportunity in this? That's it. And it isn't that they're smarter or better, that they're going to succeed. It's just because the fundamental question they're asking is, what is the opportunity? There is an opportunity in this. It may not be immediately obvious, but there is an opportunity. And all of the people that ask that question are going to be just fine on the other side of this. They'll have to go through emotional pain. They'll have to go through all the difficulties that everybody else is going to go through, but they won't exacerbate it. They won't make it worse by focusing on the negativity. They're going to make it better by saying, okay, hiding in this somewhere is an opportunity. Just saying that makes me feel differently right now. Just relaying that to you, like, makes me go to a different mental place, because I'm like, oh yeah, fuck, there is an opportunity here. And if I can be the one that just stays focused on that, and I'm looking and I'm looking and I'm looking, it's an optimistic vibe. It's a hopeful vibe. And it makes me feel optimistic and hopeful, which is a way better place to be than to be like, yo, our systems can't handle this. They're going to fucking break. This is going to happen again. Because let me tell you, this is what's probably going to happen. Now, I don't know. I'm not a fucking expert. But let me tell you what I think is going to happen. The weather's going to get warmer. The virus is going to go into remission. And then about October, it's going to come back. This is exactly what happened in 1918 with the Spanish flu. It goes away, and then it ends up coming back as the weather changes, just like a normal flu season would. So you're going to get maybe 5 months of like, oh, hey, everything's returned to normal, and then it's going to go back down. Even though I know that that's coming, like, that's not freaking me out. It's not where I'm spending my time thinking about that. So it's, okay, well, one, anything that's predictable shouldn't be scary, because the very thing that makes something not scary is the ability to plan for it. So it's like, okay, cool. If that's going to happen, then what do we need to do now to be ready for that, right? So we've got 5 months to not be panic buying, to not, be in the state that we're in now. And so if people focus on me, so for everybody that was here a few minutes ago when Jim Quick was with us, he said the one idea, if he could give people one idea, it would be that they're entirely responsible for their life. Now, we can't take responsibility for COVID-19, right? It happened. But we're 100% responsible for how we respond to it. So if people can get into that mode, okay, there's opportunity in anything, and then I'm responsible for me, and I'm going to make choices that empower me, that are focused on hope and optimism, and are real, right? So don't bullshit yourself, but figure out what you need to do, and then I think people will be fine. Like, if everybody were in that mode, we would be fine. So I don't want people getting in that negative cycle of, look, bad shit happens all the time. So it just is what it is. Now it's a question of how do you respond. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for that amazing question. That was absolutely wonderful. And if anybody else is out there and has a question, go ahead and request to join the live. I'm going to take one more, and then I'm going to have to bounce. I got to get back to work. But this is part of my daily check-in, which I've been doing since the lockdown here. Most people in LA, anyway, are quarantining themselves. We've been all working from home now for 2 weeks. Which, by the way, if we have anybody here that's a fan of Impact Theory, the show, we are starting to do interviews over Skype. I know everybody's used to sort of the high production value of the show, but we got to have interviews, and I don't want to put people at risk. Excuse me. So, all right, let us get somebody to join us here. Make sure that you have your question ready. Make sure your question is nice and concise. And I'm going to take one more here. Let's see what we've got. All right, we've got H. Ali. See how we do. H. Ali, waiting for, connecting. What is up, my man? How you doing?
What's up, Tom? My name's Ali. How you doing today?
Good, dude. Where are you at?
I'm out of Houston, Texas. We're working from home. We got the home set up right here. You know, making sure got my stack of books.
There it is.
Awesome. Hey, Tom, thanks for coming on. I actually started my own podcast, so I've been using your listening and skills and interviewing skills to kind of, pick up a couple of strategies. So thank you for that.
Absolutely, man.
Okay, so here's the question. I actually have 2 questions, all right? First is going to be a simple one. What's your favorite book that you ever read or you recommend to any entrepreneurs or up-and-coming, people that it could be about mindset, sales, business, anything? And
well, I will say the most important book, so we'll take them one at a time. The most important book is Carol Dweck's book, Mindset. Unfortunately, I found that long after I had to cobble all that together. So when I read it, that was more of a, oh my God, I'm so grateful that this book exists. Let me tell people about it. The book that changed my life, though, was a fiction book called The Gunslinger by Stephen King, who is on my list of people I desperately want to interview. And that was just because it was exactly what I needed to fall in love with reading. I read it when I was 12. It was my dad pleading with me because I said I didn't like reading. I didn't want to read. And he said, look, I'm going to give you one more book. Try this book. If you like this book, great. A whole world will open up to you. If you don't, then I'll never bother you to read again. And so I read it. And to this day, 30 plus years later, I remember the opening line of that book. So it's a book that changed my life, but I don't expect it to hit people the same way that it hit me. But yeah, those are my book answers.
But it's definitely not an easy read, right? It's one of those really, really big ones,
this one's super, super thin. My dad was very wise.
Okay.
Gunslinger is short. He has other books in the same series that are incredibly long. But no, that one was short.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for that. I noted it down. Can actually buy it from Amazon right now. If you can give your 18-year-old self advice, what would you tell him?
All right, so it depends on what about, but because at 18 I didn't have a growth mindset, I would just spend all my time focused on what I call the only belief that matters, which is that if you put time and energy into getting better, you actually will improve. And so I felt like that I was basically going to be a failure because I didn't have the skill set that I needed to have the life that I wanted. And that was a very dark place to live in. And so once I realized, actually you can improve just by putting time and energy into something, that was utterly transformational. In terms of getting what is happening.
Oh yeah, we were actually going to show you something. Can you hear this? Can you see this?
I can see it, yeah.
All right, so we were getting it out of our box. After you finish, I'm going to tell you what that's about.
So the other part, in terms of a job, the advice that I would give myself in my early 20s is to find the person who's living the life that I want to live and go give them the speech that I talk about all the time, which is I'll work for you for free for 90 days. I'll work harder and smarter than anybody else. All I ask in exchange is knowledge and connections. And I would probably do that with several people. And in your early 20s, it really is okay. As I say, you can be poor and still get laid. And so that would have been a game changer for me. But unfortunately, I was not that wise. I had a fixed mindset. I was trying to optimize for money, which was a real mistake because money only spends once, but knowledge you can monetize forever.
Absolutely. And so, on my podcast, I've been asking that question to everyone. I've been having different types of guests in every industry. And then the answer that we have when people ask me, we actually wrote a book giving us the answer to our 18-year-old selves, because me and my business partner co-author, we're about 25 years old. So,
all right, what's it called? Create Your what?
Create Your Frequency.
There you go. All right, everybody, check it out. Create Your Frequency.
the best way to predict the future is to create it.
My man. There you go.
So
Is that a
I'm
Peter
going to
Diamandis
send you a
quote?
copy, Tom. I want the crazy thing is I mentioned you in the book multiple times. I was like, there's a chapter I'm talking about learning from podcasts, webinars, YouTube videos, and stuff like that. I was like, at this chapter, stop what you're doing and get on YouTube, type in impact theory, look up Tom Bilyeu, and just watch one episode a day. That alone will, shift your paradigm, give you, a lot of other insight from people. You talk to the smartest people on earth, right? And so, people, mindset coaches, lifestyle coaches, businessmen, people that came from rags to riches stories. So definitely shouted you on the book. I'm going to send you a copy, Tom. I want you to take read it. Tell me what you think. Okay.
My man, it sounds good. Dude, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Take care,
Good
buddy.
luck with the book. Keep changing lives. And
Thank you, sir.
to everybody, thank you so much for joining me today. I really, really appreciate it. And yeah, I will see you guys tomorrow. I'll be doing these daily. Much appreciated for everybody joining in. And until next time, my friends, be legendary. Take care.